Alright, our next process after doing our shading, you can see the shading, is going to be blushing. So all I'm going to be using for that is the Bountiful Baby Lip Blush color. I think it's number 4. So let's get some thinner. That's enough to start. A couple drops of the linseed oil. So we're going to get lots of our color here. I do have a lot of liquid in here because I will be using a lot of this, and I will probably do 2 layers in some areas. I'm going to start out with that. As you can see, that's thicker over here and thinner over here, and I usually just pull some color. See how that works. I'm going to be using the same sponge I did in the last mottling layer, and this is a half of a sponge I had cut and just took some long skinny tweezers and plucked holes out. So this is usually what I use for the rest mottling layer and then this blushing layer. And then just layer on the cheeks area. And it's okay if it's splotchy looking, but the color's not even, because as you can see, when babies have the red cheeks or whatever, it's not a solid red. And then, like, let's see here, this outer edge is when you just go in and blend out. And so like this area where you have the line there, I'm going to blend that out when you're done. But this is where you do the cheeks, any of your little fatty rolls that get blushing, the chin. If you want to do what a lot of people do is like the stork, I think it's a stork bite spot. You can make a little red area patch. So any area where we're going to be doing the blushing or red, that's where I do that. Just that plain color by itself. Kind of blend it out a little bit. I also go through and take the color and go over our shading areas. And folds. Make sure to let those flash a little bit and then pounce them out so you don't have any hard lines. I usually don't do any of the purple veining, but this is where you can come in at this layer too. See if I can get my other brush, my thin brushes. And if you wanted to do those thin red veins, I haven't used this brush yet. This is where the time that you would come in and do, there's too much on that. You can do like the veining on the eye area when you do this layer. Get in here with this. But I'd really have to work my brush in. That one's wet, so. I don't know if you can see that. Do that in this area. Just like little branches. You can also do that a little bit in the center of the forehead. Shh. I'm going to branch some out if you want to. I don't do much of the red. If I want to keep things simple, but you can do that. I don't know. See, it's very faint. You can't even really see it on the camera. But this is the time that I would go in with this red. And be putting your red veining in. The really fine veins. But that's one reason why I did this type of pattern on this sponge and use it when I do the red layer in my mottling. So it does already seem like there's red veining mixed in with the mottling. So that was my little cheat. I wanted something kind of that would simulate the thin red small veining. So if you want to do any extra, you could do it in this layer. This is also when I add most of the coloring, the base coloring for the lips. The first layer too, I just cover the entire lip except for the center here. Gonna have to get in here with her mouth open. And what would make this easier too to get the inside that I'd probably do separately is mix in some of, say, like your Look Alive thinning medium or glazing gel, and mix it in with your inner mouth color and get it in there nice and thick. Make sure your color's not running here. And I'm not sure if I specifically said this with the shading layer, because you want to do it both with the shading and the lip color, is you make sure that where the lips meet, that you darken, just like on the toes and fingers when they connect. You want to darken where they connect so it looks like there is a separation in that area. And you don't want pulled up paint in there either. But I usually do the base color all the way across, and then make sure I highlight all the creases in the lip. Make sure I have it darkened where they connect, all the little lines around the crease around the edge. These little hairs are bugging me today. I've had this sitting out for like a day or two, and it's got dust. So just make sure you do. See, sometimes before I bake, I'll go back when it's dry and I'll add a little bit more. If you can get away with adding it without wiping it off, instead of, I have a bit of, well, I have a bit of OCD, but I have ADD and I get distracted easily, and I don't like waiting for things. So I always try to find the easiest way to do things that looks like I did a lot of work. So she's got the nice little pink in her eyes there. Use this thinner brush for these thin creases. Sure, get in there. A lot of times new artists neglect all the creases. And if you can see on this lower part, I can just tap in the crease and it leaves like a drop of color, and just tap, 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 and it will connect itself and leave a perfectly even amount of color in the crease. And if I need to take some out, I just go and brush it. That looks like a piece of fuzz. So just go in with your toothpick. And wiggle that little thing out of there. And blend. So I don't know if you can see. And then let's get some. I want to make sure, keep checking back, because sometimes when once the liquid, your thinner flashes, paint will pool. Okay, make sure you get your little indents here, and then make sure you're blending all your edges. As well as, let's see, I can add a little, do I want to, blend, blend, blend. And you're going to do like all your creases like you did with the shadowing around the neck. What I like to do for the ears is I like the look of the pink ear that looks like they've been sleeping on their ear. So other than, we're going to do like we did the shading, going to do our creases in our ear. To bring out that color. But I also like to put it right in the jar and get that dark color and pounce it around and across the ear. So it looks like they were sleeping on it. And you can use like your sponge and kind of blend that out. So it kind of looks like it's a little red from them sleeping on their ear. So there's that. And I'll do maybe like 2 layers of that. So as you can see, we're starting to add the color to the lips. And we got all the nice detailed colors in the face here with the shading and the blushing. It's driving me crazy today. Okay, so I'll get some more of this since my cheekies are dry. And I'll add another layer on top. Since I'm not really moving this around too much and working on this, once it's dry I can add another layer and it really won't mess up the layer underneath. so I can add a couple of layers before I actually bake it, saving me some bake time. So again, you can do it like this area here that kind of sticks out, the cheekbone area. Any areas that kind of stick up a little bit that would be rubbed on, or fat rolls that would more than likely get red, you can add the blushing to. Let's see a spot there. And then just blend your edges out so it looks more natural. And like I said before, how it reminds me of, like, the inside of my hand always reminds me of ground beef, where it's splotchy, really splotchy looking. That's what skin texture or the skin tone looks like. It's not going to be one solid color unless your baby's got a cold and got bright red cheeks. So it's going to be splotchy. So we're going to go through, make sure we get pink in our creases. Because if you've had a baby and you've separated their little fat rolls, it's pink inside just from the moisture and the skin touching. So just go through and make sure all the creases have the pink. And then after the thinner flashes, make sure you go back and make sure there's no pulled paint in the creases. Because sometimes I'll put enough on there just to, like, put it in the crease and then let it run. Like there's a pooling of paint right in here in the neck. I'll just let that flash, and then when I go back, once it's almost completely flashed, and then I'll blend it out with my dry brush. So there's no use fighting the liquid, because it's just gonna, if you pounce it when it's too wet, it's just gonna take all the paint out. And this layer too is also the time that you can do, like when you do the stork bite, to do your little, my mom used to call it like a strawberry patch that most of us have on the back of our head. I'm trying to, right back here, kind of goes down, and then you can kind of just blend it out. You can get your sponge in here because it just looks like a stain kind of. On the back of the neck area. Kind of fade the edges. So you can have that little big or small, however you want to do it on the back of the head there. Get this other ear done. And once you do this enough, you'll know that, you know, your consistency of your paint, where, I don't know, some of you this might look easy to where whatever I'm doing is pretty much, you know, I don't have paint running all over the place. I know exactly how much I'm gonna need on my brush, or the consistency. And we're gonna do this little pink as if I've been sleeping on the ear. Just blend that so it's just red and not splotchy. And if the ear looks too pink, which you can do if you want to do this little red ear, what you can do, which will make it look better, I'll probably do it and show you, is I'll do another layer of this red up here, and then I'll come back with the shadow and come in and darken the little shadow a little bit in the ear so the ear doesn't look like it's just all red ear. So my creases should have flashed enough for me to just go back and pounce any extra out. Like, I don't know if you can see this. There's a little bit of paint right in that area, and I'm just gonna go pounce and blend it out. This neck area. As you can see, this area, it ran a little bit. Just pounce and blend. Always make sure behind the ears. Sometimes if you're not paying attention, you can get marks behind the ears. Sometimes just get some of the blushing. I just used my pouncing brush for that. Some of the blushing back behind this ear to give it some definition and illusion of depth. That's the word I was looking for. Got too much color there. Back with the pouncing brush and blend away. And you're gonna see, like, you can see the definition, like the definite color between like the face and the back of the head, around the ears, the forehead, and the back of the head. But if you're gonna be putting hair on your head, it's not really going to matter that this is lighter or that there's a big difference. If you're gonna do a bald baby, then you're gonna wanna kind of bring your blushing up around the whole head to make it even looking. But if it's just along the hairlines, it's not, because I mean, for people, if you shave your head's going to be a whole lot whiter than the rest of your face in areas that are exposed to the sun, because the sun doesn't reach those areas because it's covered. So this is what, you know, realistically, what a head would look like if you shaved your head or took all the hair off after being exposed to the elements. It's going to be whiter than the rest of the face and neck. Okay, so I'm going to try to sneak another layer onto these lips. Lips are a little tricky. You don't want to add too much of the thinner when you do this, because you don't want to wipe away what you already did. But like I said, I try to get as much on before a bake, so I don't have to do so many layers. You just want it light enough. And I'll do across, just across the top. and around the edges and in the crease area. I like to make sure, just use that one, that I blend this line down so that it's natural looking and does not look like a line. So as you can see, you can really start to see the color on the lips now. So that is the blushing on the face. And I'll probably do 2 layers. I'll probably not like mess with the eyes anymore, but I'll do more blushing on the cheeks and on the forehead area once that's baked. Now with the feet area, we're going to do the creases as well. We're also going to do some of the sponging to get that pink color. Now again, I go up a little bit. Up a little bit past the ankle. And then I also like to get the thicker, more dense red and do the little knuckles on the toes. I'll kind of let that flash a little bit. But I also will do the same on the bottom of the feet and the bottom of the toes. The balls of the feet, around the outside edge, and the heel of the foot. And then I usually like to come in with my sponge and kind of blend those out because it's a little softer than coming in with a brush. Brush will sometimes just wipe it away. Same with the bottom of the foot. Blend out. Make sure, because toes and fingers are tricky, because you want to make sure you get all sides. And then, see, this way it's already nice and really pink with just this one darker layer. Make sure you blend your heel. And your sides. Sometimes you want to get this side nice and pink. You want to make sure you don't see any of the brush strokes. So you can go back and make sure you get all these bigger creases. Creases, creases. Doing the details is what's going to define a more detailed baby, a more realistic baby, a more expensive and a higher quality baby. Not only by what you use, but the amount of detail that you bring out in your baby. So make sure you get every detail on the feet. Also, kind of work this up a little bit. Any areas that your baby's leg's going to rub on anything, you're going to want to kind of add the blushing and stuff like that. A lot on, we love babies with the red knees. Usually do 2 or 3 layers on the knee. It's a little wet. It's a little wet there. I usually like to do it more dry. So the next layers I'll do dry. But because I'm getting into my deep section over here on my mix. It's a lot of liquid over here. So you want to mix and pull out your color. And you want to make sure that you get these fatty layers. Highlight these fatty layers with your blushing. Make sure you're blending everything. And again, making sure you're getting all your creases, because this is mostly where, when you pull apart your little chunky butts, fatty layers on the leg is where you're going to see those pink stripes in there. And we don't want it to look like a stripe, but that's what it looks like when you pull it apart. It's got a little pink in there. So, and sometimes on the outer leg, you can, if you have, say you have a vein you don't like too much, or you see too much of it and you want it to look a little more under the skin, just add some of that and you just blend. Your big crease in here. Should we get that pink in there? Flash a little bit more. If your baby's working those legs, she's gonna have, see this way? It looks like the leg is actually bent, resting on itself. Like I said, if you add that definition, that illusion, that it opens. And you don't want it to look like a line. Just blend those edges. But you want to make the illusion that that fold is there, that they can lift it back up. So you can see with some of the blushing on the toes. Now also at this time, if you don't have the pencil that I'll be showing later for the nails, what you can do is get your small brush, get the dark colors, and if you're not going to do the half moons, you can start coloring in this area of your toenails. You can start doing that if you're not gonna use the pencil I'm gonna show later when we do the nails. So let me see if I don't like how you can't really see the color on the knee. So I'm gonna get more of the concentrated color and go back over when it's still just a little bit wet and go over the knee area and just make sure you blend. So we have the nice pinky folds and everything in the foot and the bottom of the foot. So that's what you would do to the leg and feet. I like the belly. I like working on the belly. So we'll do that before we get to the hand. This is where, let's get this going here. You're for sure going to have it in your little pudgy belly area. This blushing. And across here where your diaper is going to rub, it's going to be pinker and darker. So we're just going to blend our edges. Like this area is kind of red, a little too red for me. You can see the little lines. I'm just going to blot those out with my brush. And blend the edges so you see no lines or anything. Lighten up any red spots with just pouncing my brush. Just maybe a little bit on there because it's still kind of pretty wet. Across the neck where baby's fatty chin is going to rest and rub. Moving those arms around. So we're just going to blend that. And this is where I'm going to go in and I'm going to start defining the little nipple area. And I notice a lot of people do really either the nipple's too big or it's really, really red. So as I've already kind of made it easier to define the area by doing like the blotting and everything around it, the mottling and everything, I'm just going to follow, it's kind of like an oval, the area that the sculptor has defined. And just like the, to me it's almost exactly like doing the lips. The first layer or two, I'm going to cover the complete area with the color. To the defined area. I'm going to have to pick some fuzzies out of here. Make sure that they look somewhat symmetrical. So as you can see, just barely, I have highlighted them. So the first layer or two, just lightly, a light thin layer defining the area. Okay, we can get some more of this darker concentrated paint for this little snub nub. Kind of want, let me wipe this area off. I kind of want that highlighted, so I'm going to wipe that paint off I just got on the edge. So for the belly button look, I'm going to go here is, it's going to be a little pink, like it's a little irritated. Or just a little bit. You don't want it to look infected, which I see a lot of them looking bright red, like, you know, you don't want your baby to look sick or like it has an infection. We just want to highlight enough to give that definition. Okay, this thing's driving me crazy. Because I'm going to be adding some brown to this little nub here. But I want to come in and do my creases. Highlight my creases. And blend my color so it doesn't look like I have lines. Because in this area your baby's going to be moving her legs up and down, moving around to where, and then with the diaper there's going to be, you know, it's going to be pinker with the friction of the clothing and the diaper and the moving around. So you're going to have a bit more pinker in this area, in these creases. And if you can see, like, see how wide I cover this crease? It looks like I just put a fat blobby line. Well, I did, and it's easier that way because when it flashes a little bit, you can just come and blend it. Blend that edge to where your color is just going to be in your crease and you won't have pooled paint. So your crease looks perfect because it's going to have just the amount of paint in it without pooling, with less work, less fidgeting. I don't like to fidget with stuff long. I can see underneath here there's like a crease where it looks like I have some paint, but I didn't get all the paint across here because I wasn't looking underneath here that much. I wanted to find that. Looks a little messy. You're just going to go back and pounce. You want to get that color in there and then pounce the rest of it away and blend. And that edge looks a little dark there, and if I want to, I can get my toothpick and scrape it a little bit, and it will lift some of that color. Because I only bake, when I do my layers, I only bake for about 8 minutes that way. If I find a mistake or a clump of paint, say in the crease, I can still go back and scrape it real good and it will come out. And then when I do my final layers, I cook it for longer. But the 8 minutes is enough to keep the layer underneath and not mess with it. So that, I don't want to do too much pink on here because I'm going to do brown. But just make sure that your blushing is blended. got our thin layers there. Maybe just add a little bit more pink in this area to define those areas a little bit more, how we did with the shading. Just want to blend it. Make sure you blend, 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 blend. And that's our belly. And then we'll come back and we're going to do like at least another complete layer over the nipple. And then the next layer after that will be the detail of it. I think this is enough pink on the little nub here. Might do a little bit more, just a little bit underneath the belly for blushing, but that's about it for the belly. Let's do, it's not the hand I like to do first. Let's do this one. So again, we're going to take our little sponge here and we're going to go over the hand. Hand area here. And we're going to do our little knuckle areas here. Now let those flash a little bit. Then we're going to do this like we did the bottom of the foot. We're going to do the inside of the hand area. We just want to make sure we're getting that concentrated color on there first. And we're going to come back with our sponge. And we're going to blend. I kind of want to get some more right around in here. And blend that out with the sponge so we're not seeing any brush strokes. Now with the beds of the fingernails and the toe, or the fingers and the toe pads, you know, if you really want them pink, you're going to have to do a couple layers because the paint doesn't stay much. That's why we did the prepping we did with the Look Alive medium, so that this has something to adhere to. Because if not, this color would barely be on here at all. It has like a little red spot on there I don't like. So we get that nice and pink. And come back out here and make sure we blend our little knuckles here. As you can see, if this one has a lot of paint built up in this crease, so I'm just going to take my toothpick and move some of that out, or you can just come with your dry brush and pull that paint out. So make sure we got our pink going around here, around the wrist area. I want to add some of this pink in the creases on the inside of the hand. Where this little one's going to be folding its fingers back and forth. I have to say this. Most of Laura's kits have wonderful creases and stuff like that to accentuate and stuff like that. And this one has beautiful. It just seems like everything just goes right in perfectly into these beautiful creases. Highlighting big creases in the hand. So there we have our little hand blushed. And you can too, if you want to, some babies, you can darken the knuckle area of the hand a little bit and bring that out. Just make sure you blend. Blend is the magical word. Make sure you get it in all the creases. And we're going to do the same like with the leg to make sure you get it. You want to be blushing all the crease areas. Especially the large one. And two, I can add a little bit on top here. Then we want to do our blushing on our elbow. And then just make sure you blend everything out. Do some on the top of the shoulder. Rub it on the inside of the clothes. Getting in all the creases. Giving the illusion that it's folded and that it could open up, even though it can't. You want to give the illusion that it can. So there's your little hand. So I will finish up the other arm, the other leg, and then I will do the additional layers, and then I will show you again once I will be doing at least two more layer, or at least one more layer on top of this layer of what we already did, and then I will go over some the detailing of the nipples and any other detailing will go over that. Or at least I'll have it done and then I'll show you where I did it or how I did it.